Good morning, this is Dr. Bill Stork with another story for the cooped up, captive, and otherwise bored out of their mind. You know, I'm all about perspective. It is a tool that I use to help understand the world a little bit more completely. No one has not been affected by this here coronavirus. A sector hit particularly hard is agriculture, and not everybody may think about that on a daily basis. Ask any farmer what gets them out of bed to work 7 days a week. Some will tell you stewardship, they love the land. Some will tell you husbandry, they love their cows. But every one of them takes as a major point of pride feeding the world. And now, restaurants are closed, our borders are closed, schools are closed, and they're being asked to dump their product. Gone is their income and their purpose. So today, we're going to tell a story about a farmer. And it's also a story about embrace. Because when it comes to diversity, tolerance just isn't good enough. This is a story about Give 'em Hell Harry. In 25 years of practicing veterinary medicine, I have been fired a couple of times. Once before I ever set foot on the farm. Harry Snelly called at 4:30 on a Friday afternoon. He had 3 cows with sore feet. Now, I am sworn by oath to preserve animal health and to prevent suffering, but 3 sore feet is not necessarily life-threatening, and I had to pick up my kids from daycare by 6 o'clock. I told my receptionist to explain I could be there Saturday morning by 4 o'clock if that's what he needed. I just couldn't come Friday night. Well, that wasn't good enough. The walls of our exam room are thinner than a Motel 6. I could hear him barking at poor Joyce. Tell him to kiss my butt. If he was the last vet in Wisconsin, I would sell my cows, move to Michigan, and milk goats. And so it goes. It took him 3.5 years to chew up and spit out every other veterinarian in the countryside. But lo and behold, I was back in the crosshairs. Evidently, the Schnully farm does sore feet on Fridays like happy hour and fish fry. Once again, 3 sore feet on a Friday afternoon, but this time I did not have Paige and Calvin. So I found the farm, swung wide, backed in the drive. I reached for my seat belt, and when I went to grab the door handle to get out, it was gone. Like a firefighter at a rollover accident, he practically ripped the door off of my pickup truck. And there he stood. Flat top haircut on his bucket head, barrel-chested, Popeyes-like form. He was spewing tobacco spit like a manure spreader. Do you know what the problem is? There ain't no goddamn cow vets no more. Do you call yourself a cow vet? Well, actually, sir, I'm a trained concert pianist. I thought for sure this was a recital. Get your shit and get in the barn before my cow dies of old age. In which case, faced with a raging lunatic, my tendency is to drop a couple gears. I grabbed my bucket, my toolbox, and my rope, threw it over my shoulder, and sauntered into the barn. I set my stuff behind a cow named Francine. She ain't even on the list there, Beethoven. I said, well, she ought to be because she's got an abscess in her foot. So I tied her up, and by the time I had pus hissing through the crack in the bottom of that poor cow's soul, I had found out that Harry had served in Vietnam as a Marine. No kidding. And Earl D. Woods was a pain in the butt. Over the next 3 cows came the interrogation. Where did I go to school? Was I married? Did I have kids? How long had I lived in Wisconsin? Well, in the course of that visit and all those to follow, Give 'em Hell Harry very quickly decrescendoed into Fuzz, as his neighbors called him. He was one of my favorite farm calls. Harry was also one heck of a handyman, so every visit would end at the tailgate. He'd give me a lecture on hanging drywall, plumbing, or electrical, and a claim. You know, here pretty quick, my son Chris is going to take the herd over. Well, this went on for years, to the point that it was kind of like that free beer tomorrow sign outside your favorite Irish pub. I kind of thought Harry's pain medication was starting to go to his head, until one day in the spring, we were about halfway through a herd check, pregnancy checking cows. I heard a thump on the milk house door, and the spring twanged an A-flat. Next, light as a fawn, there came footsteps, clipping eighth notes in the manger. He turned the corner and extended his hand and said, "Why, hello, my name is Chris." Well, yes, he was. A tobacco-spitting mini-me. No, he was not. This Schnolly was sporting a faded red Oshkosh do-rag tied tightly on his head, a summer-weight flannel that matched, unbuttoned, sleeves cut out and tied playfully well above his waist, black rubber overshoes, pshaw. He was wearing a pair of mismatched vintage Chuck tees, mid-20s, farm fit. He was rocking a shamefully short pair of Daisy Dukes. Well, much like his father, in short order, Chris became one of my absolute favorite farm calls. So when I wrote this story, the first person, of course, that I showed it to was Chris. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't offensive in any way, shape, or form. He read it. I looked for an expression. I got none. He slid it across the table to me, creased his brow, and he said, "It most certainly is. I will have you know that I worked a solid 45 minutes on that outfit, and it took you 10 years to even acknowledge?" The rest of the story, as Paul Harvey would say. This story also serves as a eulogy. We lost Harry about a year and a half ago. I have 100 memories of Give 'em Hell Harry, the man among men. He fought cancer and heart disease to his last breath. But my fondest and most endearing memory of Harry Schnolly was how it is that he described his son Chris in all those years before I got to meet him. Yep, my son Chris. He is one hell of a dairy farmer and a damn hard worker. That's my story. I'm thinking next time we're going to talk about gratitude, in particular, the sector of healthcare that may not necessarily be quite as appreciated as I think they should be. Above all else, keep something moving forward.